Hey friend, and welcome back to the Alex Makes VR podcast. In today's episode, it is day number 10. 10 days of my Festive Fire challenge, where every single day I've been showing up and posting a podcast episode in the hopes that it would encourage and inspire you to take 5 minutes out of your day to make progress in some area of your life. And we made it, day number 10. I'm so proud of every single one of you listening. I've heard from so many of you. And even if you haven't been doing something physically every single day for the last 10 days, even just showing up and listening to these podcast episodes in itself is making progress. You know, this isn't the kind of podcast that you would just listen to if you wanted a bit of escapism or you just wanted a bit of non-thinky time. This is the kind of podcast that gets you thinking, that puts you hopefully in a better mental space. So even if you haven't been physically doing something, maybe in itself, listening to these podcast episodes for the last 10 days has mentally put you in a better space that's gone on to change your day if you hadn't otherwise. So regardless of what you've been doing the last 10 days, I am so proud of you. And here we are 10 days later. It goes so quick, doesn't it? And honestly, I could keep going, to be honest, because I love the flow of doing these podcast episodes. There's something, and I'm sure you found this in whatever you've been doing for the last 10 days. Once you get into that rhythm of just showing up, every single day, even on days like yesterday where I wasn't really in the headspace, I didn't really know what I was going to talk about, I didn't feel like I had, value to give. Even in those days, showing up and doing something in itself is the thing that is the accomplishment. And that builds the habit, it builds the skill to take action, which then makes you unstoppable, really. You can apply this approach to anything, really, whether it's a creative project, whether it's getting into a better routine with your sleep or your phone habits or your exercise or whatever it is. You can apply it in so many areas of life. But specifically for us creatives, I think we've been sold this narrative for so long that people are just kind of geniuses and you just come up with an idea out of nowhere and then that's it. You just work like a mad person to get it done and then that's it. That is the product of genius. But actually, it's a bit of a myth. And yes, maybe some of those kind of lightning in a bottle projects have happened, but around them, in order to make those projects successful, were people that showed up every single day to perfect their craft, to expand their network, to make that project possible. Does that make sense? So even if you are a creative and yes, you love to work on days when you are inspired, actually showing up and having the discipline to show up and do something every single day will ultimately put you in such a better position to succeed long term, whatever it is that you're planning to pursue. So I'm really proud of you. And I guess the subject for this episode is this idea of celebrating the wins. And again, as creatives, I feel like we have this tendency to live in the future, the next project, the next skill to learn, the next camera that's available, the next platform that needs content creation, the next, whatever it might be, collaboration. We're not very good at sitting still. And that in a way is beautiful because that is just the nature of creative people, right? We are buzzing with ideas. We are buzzing with inspiration constantly. And even when we're not, we're busying ourselves doing lots of different things. It's very easy to get caught up in the next thing or the thing that we didn't get to do. It's very easy, especially in a year like 2020, to look at the year and say, oh, look at all the things that I couldn't do. Look at all the things that got cancelled. Look at all the places that I didn't get to go. But what's really actually very important, and I'm absolutely trying my best to get better at this as well, is learning to celebrate the wins more. Learning to take joy in the things that you have been able to do. Learning to recognise that actually those small bits of progress, those small things that you did, they are the big wins because ultimately they lead to you then being able to do the bigger things or the bigger projects or the whatever it might be. Take time to celebrate the things that you have been able to do this year. Like for me, I feel like I've spent a lot of time this year thinking about all of the productions that I should have and could have been doing but didn't get to do, all of the places that I should have been visiting, all of the, trips that I was meant to be going on, all of the events I was supposed to be speaking at. For a while, it did kind of feel like that. It did almost felt personal. I'm sure everyone's felt like that this year. This pandemic felt feel personally attacked by this pandemic, just like everyone. Ruined plans, it ruined projects. It's very easy to think about the things that you could have been doing. But actually, the mindset that I've shifted into, especially the last couple of months, is actually there's loads of beautiful things that have come out of this year. There's lots of wins that I can celebrate. If I'd been doing all those things I was supposed to have been doing this year, I wouldn't have started this podcast. And this podcast has been literally the saving grace of 2020 for me. It has totally shown me this other side of my kind of career that I never would have discovered before. And it's probably by far the most fulfilling thing I've ever done, connecting with you guys, like starting conversations, helping some of you like start those businesses or, get the inspiration to do your projects. Even just having an outlet to be able to talk, getting into that consistency of creating again, especially the novelty of creating something on my iPhone that can then be uploaded and then listened to by, all of you lot. Whereas in the VR world, obviously it takes a year to make anything and it's bloody hard. And then whether or not someone sees it all depends on how well you've crafted that distribution strategy that doesn't really exist. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so much simplicity and beauty in this kind of creation form that I found with podcasting. And that in itself is a win for me. Even the fact that I haven't been go this year is a win for me. Taking some time to be a bit slower, to not gallivant around the world and kind of put off thinking about what it is that I want for my career next. Like that in itself is a win, to have more time to think about that stuff. What are you proud of? Instead of thinking about the things that you didn't get to do this year or the things that of course, it's great to think about what you want to achieve. And I'm a big believer in like having goals and setting them and working towards them, of course. But what are you proud of? What are the things this year that actually you wouldn't have probably done, but you did? Even if it's something small, something like this challenge, like even this in itself is a win for all of us. It's a small thing, but who knows where this might lead all of us? Who knows if there's someone listening right now that the podcast inspired them to write something one day that then goes on to become this huge thing that they do in a few years' time. And it all started here. We were all a part of it. And if we didn't take the time to celebrate this win, if we didn't take the time to see that this is as important as some of the big things that we maybe didn't get a chance to do. I've lost my trail of thought, but you understand where I was going with that, I'm sure. Pause dramatically. So that's it for this 10-day challenge. This is it. That's the note I want to leave you on. Celebrate the wins more. And that's something that I definitely want to try and do more of. Focus on the things that we do have. Focus on the things that we did get done. Especially if you're a creative making something, it's bloody hard to make anything. So taking the time to be like, you know what, even just making progress on that project, even just writing that page of dialogue, even just coding that one bit of that app, that in itself is a massive win. It doesn't need to be, but it didn't, play at this big festival, or I didn't get to, go to that event and meet that, that big company that would then become a big client, even just celebrating the fact that, but I did get to spend a little bit more time with my family, which then led to, this beautiful moment where I had, the opportunity to take photos of something that I was passionate about rather than just chasing client work. Whatever it is, I'm going to stop rambling now. Celebrate the wins, my friend. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me. It's genuinely an honour. And I hope that you have got as much out of this podcast this year as I have. I will be back for one more episode of 2020, usual time on Monday. But until then, wherever you are in the world, I hope that you are healthy and happy. And whether or not you are celebrating a holiday this month, I'm just really proud of you. And I really just hope that you take the time to celebrate yourself, your loved ones, and some of the wins that you've had this year.